It gives energy. It brings on a sense of happiness. It titillates the taste buds in the tongue. It is the special ingredient on which entire cuisines and social identities get built. It works like a charm for the mood, adored and desired by children and adults around the globe. It can be called one of the fundamental ingredients to one's daily life: sugar. And yet this heady portion of multi-goodness is also a deceitful, stealthy killer. Every second, every minute, someone is dying because hidden in its sweetness lies deadly poison. India, with its 1.4 billion people and subcultures that thrive on sweetmeats, is the largest consumer of sugar in the world. And India is also the country where the maximum number of people die every year of diabetes. 1 million deaths per year. It is sugar that carries the blame because it is sugar that is accepted as the leading cause of diabetes.
Sugar is empty calories. I mean, it's hardly giving you nutrition, it's just giving you calories. So you're consuming something and you're not getting nourished by it, and you're possibly also, to ensure that it's metabolized adequately, you are ensuring that you're forcing the pancreas to secrete more insulin.
Sugar is not just those pretty white crystals that one finds in a jar or tin in every house. Sugar is not just those spoonfuls that one adds to tea in India. Sugar is not just that which sweetens the gulab jamun. Sugar can be found under some 60 different names, as is listed on food labels in the country. Difficult and unrelated sounding names like dextrose, maltose, high fructose corn syrup, maltodextrin, malt syrup are all sugar. These masquerades of sugar lead not just to diabetes but obesity and cardiovascular diseases, and any or all of them can cause harm to the extent of untimely death.
Sugar is essentially a carbohydrate, and too much of carbohydrate, or the kind of carbohydrate which increases your insulin levels very rapidly, leads to higher the chances of deposition of fat in the abdomen, which is one of the key culprits for heart disease and metabolic disorders that we are suffering today. So whether it is hypertension, so a hypertensive patient is typically told to have less salt, but not told to have less sugar. So these are things which we need to bring out about sugar.
Take diabetes. With more than 62 million people battling diabetes in India, the situation is certainly alarming. And the numbers are rising every year.
My mother was diabetic. It was diagnosed that she is diabetic when she was around, I think, 50 or 55 years of age. First it was my mother, then me, and then my dad now. So you have to accept it basically.
What happens to your body when you consume sugar? Sugar is made up of glucose and fructose. Glucose travels from the intestines to the liver and then to the body and is used as energy. Whereas fructose, which is usually found in sweetened beverages, is different. Unlike glucose, fructose is stored in the liver and very little of it is delivered to the body. Liver starts storing fructose, resulting in fatty liver. It can lead to high cholesterol, high blood pressure, diabetes, insulin resistance, and other cardiovascular diseases. Consumption of free sugars, that is the basic chemical ingredient of what constitutes sugar, has been directly linked to rise in these diseases. Yet, health professionals say simple lifestyle changes and dietary measures can work wonders, even for those who have already contracted one of the sugar-related diseases. Like Anuradha, a mother of two and a type 1 diabetic who made dietary changes to control her blood sugar levels.
But I have fixed myself from 100 units of insulin to no insulin. It is just the way I eat, and I eat healthy food, and it's very important for us. I can go on holidays initially, and I stopped going for holidays because how do you carry like a bag full of medication and all? So I'm off a couple of my diabetic medicines also I'm off.
Diabetes is just one of the many metabolic disorders affecting the health of people. Non-communicable diseases are the cause of nearly 60% deaths in India. And health experts believe it is unhealthy diet and lack of adequate or proper physical activity that are the major culprits.
The important message there is rectifying a certain bunch of risk factors will help, and that's why I use this term, not looking at single disease, will help in preventing multiple disorders. And that's good, isn't it? Otherwise you had to have, one sort of diet to prevent heart disease, one to prevent diabetes, one to prevent hypertension, one to prevent cancer, you don't have to do that. You really need one good, wholesome, healthy diet. You need regular physical activity. That takes care of a lot of things. So in terms of primordial prevention, that's a great way of doing it.
According to the World Health Organization, 1 out of every 10 people in India have raised blood glucose levels. And why would that not be the case when India consumes 1/3 more sugar than the entire European Union? India even consumes 60% more sugar than China, which is a more populous country. The irony is that, as per WHO guidelines nutritionally, free sugar is not even needed in one's diet. It is well known that sugar elevates the mood, and the more sugar one has, the more sugar one wants.
If you have more sugar, if you have sugar regularly, your body wants more sugar. So it has an addictive component, and several studies are now supporting that it stimulates the same neural pathways in the brain as a regular drug. So, whether it is 8 times more addictive or 7 times before, but certainly it is addictive. It has that kind of component, and so the more you have, the more you want. It gives you that feeling of a reward, and you want more and more.
But how much is too much? How does one figure that this much of sugar is all right and more than this would be harmful for the human body? The World Health Organization has set guidelines that recommend the intake of free sugar to be less than 10% of the total energy need for both children as well as adults. A rough estimate of this 10% WHO guideline translates to about 25 grams, that is about 6 teaspoons of sugar a day.
Typically, if you count your sugar intake, an average person's diet should have about 4 to 5 teaspoons maximum, and if you put a spoon of sugar or a spoon and a half in your cup of tea and accompany that with a cookie or two, you've consumed your entire day's allowance for sugar.
It may come as a surprise to many, but India has the second largest number of obese children in the world. This is not in terms of percentage, but in absolute numbers, and these numbers are increasing by the day. The danger signs are being missed that this rampant obesity will make future generations of Indians susceptible to an overabundance of deadly diseases.
I never had much knowledge about what to do and what not to do, and I ballooned up really badly. So I think when I was 16, 17, when I was 16, I was my heaviest around 85 kgs, which was, I used to be really fat, my clothes became tight, I was really unfit, so I couldn't, climb stairs without feeling sort of, tired or fatigued. I couldn't spend a lot of time walking. Everything became like a chore for me. So that's when I decided to make some changes in my life, and I've been better than at least that phase of my life.
When he was a child and when he was gaining weight, the pediatrician I would go to would tell me, Mrs. Sharma, 1 hour of physical exercise, 1 month later, it became 1 hour of strenuous physical exercise. There was no physical exercise. 3rd month, he would check his weight and tell me 2 hours of regular, strenuous physical exercise, and that won't happen. But 2-3 years back, when he decided it upon himself that he needs to get fitter, then suddenly food habits changed.
What makes children fat? Is it lack of exercise? Is it lack of time for physical activity? Is it economic well-being leading to comfortable sedentary lifestyles? It is all of this in certain measure and more because sugar has been directly linked to childhood obesity. The urban tendency, and fast spreading across small town in India as well, is the demand for sugar-rich processed foods. That packet of chips, that bottle of cola, the aspirational trappings of a globalized economy is adding extra calories to the nation's youth.
So that's possibly linked to the sort of food you eat, the amount of food you eat, the tendency to have more screen time because you possibly have more gadgets which have screens in them, the likelihood of not playing because physical games have been replaced by virtual games, the fact that schools often burden children to an extent that they really don't have the time, even if they're interested in. Schools which used to be compulsorily having playgrounds don't have playgrounds. If they have playgrounds, the number of physical education periods in a week is possibly down to 1. Parents are concerned about their children leaving the house in the evening because of security issues. People can't send their children to go on a cycle because they're concerned that the traffic will hit them. So there's a lot which is contributing. Remember, all of these issues are chronic, complex, multifactorial. So to again assume that one thing by one set of individuals can fix it is pie in the sky. It's not going to happen.
Till some years ago, in India, there were diseases that were considered adult problems. Diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Even now, for the average person, these would be considered ailments that the middle-aged or aged would have to watch out for. But then, the times have certainly changed.
Cholesterol issues are happening with kids. I had a kid actually, 3 days ago, I had a kid in my clinic. She had high blood pressure. She's only 13. High blood pressure, only 13. Weight was sky high. She's a sportsman and she wants to play badminton, but she can't because she is not able to lose the weight. She doesn't qualify weight wise to get into a certain sports team. So how sad is that?
And obese children usually become obese adults, especially if one or both parents are obese. A WHO report in 2016 came out with some alarming figures as far as India was concerned. For children aged between 5 years and 19 years, the rate of obesity was found to be 22%. This over a 5-year period of study. According to the report, in poorer countries, children of wealthier families are more likely to be obese, especially in cultures where an overweight child is often considered to be healthy. However, in wealthier countries, poorer children are more likely to be obese, partly because of the affordability of fatty fast food and high sugary snacks. The economic well-being brought on by liberalization and globalization is already impacting India's physical health. A quarter of a century after India opened up its doors and removed many hurdles to rampant consumerism, 1 out of every 4 Indians above the age of 30 is now at the risk of dying of a lifestyle disease. The cluster of lifestyle diseases being on an upward trend has put to bed the theory that it is mostly gene and hereditary that is to blame.
Clearly, anything which happens over a very short period of time has to do with the environment, right? Because genetic mutations or genetic changes occur over millennia. They don't occur over short periods. There could be a secondary component of gene-environment interaction. So the same genes which were predisposing somebody to a disease were not as active or were not switched on, or they didn't have the required effect because they weren't embedded within an environment. The same environment, the same genes become differently functional once the environment changes. But clearly it's a lifestyle issue. Clearly it's a lifestyle environment issue. I'd say 90%, 95% is because of that.
As the Indian economy embraced the world and the resulting boom led to change in lifestyle and aspiration, it also highlighted certain pitfalls when it came to understanding changing living conditions. Where on one hand, increased buying power led to changing consumption patterns, the traditional idea of chubby children being the desired shape refused to go away. Richer parents have meant rising rate of childhood obesity, termed an exploding nightmare by World Health Organization. The early onset of lifestyle diseases has a direct connection with the consuming pattern of populations.
These days, if I give a kid a choice to eat a paratha or a chocolate or a paratha or let's say a bar, they'll choose the bar because it has that right mix of salt, sugar and fat that makes you want more.
One day they won't call a pizza joint. I would be getting calls on my phone that, man, everything okay? You haven't called for, the favorite pizza today. And I would tell them, okay, give us a break. My children have moved on to another junk now.
Now, the question is, even if the awareness sets in that sugar is a dangerous commodity and that the sweetness of sugar has the capacity to kill, what does one do about it? Removing sugar from the diet cannot be an option because there has to be sweetness to life. Experts who know better say moderation is the key. They say there are some forms of sugar like those available in honey, fruits and vegetables which are healthy. So one can have those, but again, not in huge quantities. The trick is to have that much sugar that one can burn off.
That's the first message which has to go. People need to be informed and educated about what they're eating so that they can take an appropriate and considered decision. So I may be educated enough to say that I shouldn't eat certain things, but if what I buy is not labeled appropriately, I may not know whether I'm eating the right thing, right? How much salt should be there in a packet of crisps, again, can be regulated, right? How much sugar can be there in certain sugar drinks can be regulated. Changing taste will not have an open eye. It has to be a combination of self-regulation and facilitated regulation from regulatory bodies.
Sugar is so much the slow and silent killer that now pressure groups have managed to convince governments to take action. Today, there is a global movement against sugar to put it on the evil food list. To curb consumption, countries have imposed regulations on the added sugar in packaged food. Mexico was the first country to impose sugar tax on sweetened beverages. UK and France have also implemented regulation leading to sugar tax. But with its laddus and gulab jamuns and jalebis and rasgullas and 1,000 other sweet nothings, the movement against sugar has still not taken off in India. Indian festivals and family festivities are not under threat. It is only the health of unwary millions that is at stake here. It is not sweet sugar that is to blame. It is sweet ignorance that's taking a toll on India's youth.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you will love to.